You walk through the soft glow of late afternoon while tiny reflections bloom across cafe windows after rain, carrying the memory of someone gently in your chest without letting it anchor your steps to yesterday. The city moves around you in warm pastel colors, bicycles passing slowly, flower shops breathing into the street. And somehow the world feels kinder now that you've stopped asking broken things to remain complete. There are traces of love still resting quietly in the sleeves of your oversized coat and favorite songs, but they no longer ache the way cold metal aches beneath winter skies before the morning sun arrives. Now they feel softer, like pressed petals hidden carefully between pages no one else will ever read, reminding you that endings can still leave beauty growing where they used to bleed. Maybe losing someone was never meant to empty the whole room inside your heart. Maybe it simply rearranged the furniture so new light could enter through the dark. Maybe warmth survives not because nothing changes, but because you keep choosing tenderness even after the leaving. Now the evens feel lighter against your skin while warm street lamps shimmer gently through the drifting rain, and every quiet step you take sounds steadier than the frightened rhythm of your old pain. You no longer search the crowd hoping to recover what already learned how to disappear, because the world keeps unfolding softly ahead of you, bright enough to hold you here. A bookstore door swings open slowly while jazz leaks onto the sidewalk beneath the fading apricot-colored sky. And somewhere nearby, someone laughs hard enough to make even the traffic pause for a second at the light. You realize healing has never been dramatic enough to announce itself with thunder or breaking glass. It arrives in smaller ways, warm coffee cups, fresh air, sunlight resting quietly on apartment walls. The love you lost did not vanish completely into silence beneath the turning seasons of the year. It became texture, color, movement, shaping the gentler way. You now carry yourself through crowded rooms, and though there are nights when memories still return unexpectedly like perfume caught inside passing wind, you no longer close the windows when they enter. You simply let them drift through and leave again. If hope has a face, perhaps it resembles your reflection, smiling faintly in a train window after midnight rain. Or flowers growing stubbornly through cracked concrete beside roads everyone assumed were permanently gray. Not forgetting, not replacing, just learning how to move forward without asking your heart to become colder in order to survive. Now the soft evening air wraps carefully around your shoulders while the city glows gold beneath gathering clouds, and every passing stranger seems to carry their own unfinished story quietly through the warm lit streets, somewhere between the fading echoes of old love and the gentle pull of whatever waits ahead beyond tonight. You keep walking forward with open hands, letting the future arrive slowly enough to feel beautiful again. The rain moves softly through the the sleeping city, while old street lamps painted amber circles on the flooded roads below. And they walked together beneath fading autumn branches where wet leaves clung quietly to their shoes. The youngest one kept laughing at the sound of water gathering inside broken pavement cracks near the station line, while the older faces carried memories gently folded deep inside the silence between their smiles. The city at dawn looked half awake, windows glowing faintly above cafes, still smelling of warm bread and yesterday's coffee. And somewhere in the slow rhythm of footsteps echoing through the rain-soaked avenue, their tired hearts began loosening like scarves untied carefully after a long cold season. Maybe healing never arrives dramatically enough for anyone to notice at first glance. Maybe it begins quietly, inside familiar voices returning through cold air, inside family and old friends continuing to walk beside one another through unfinished mornings. The rain kept falling silver through the pale blue dawn, while the city slowly opened its eyes beneath the clouds. And every passing light along the avenue reflected softly like old memories, learning how to breathe again. They carried yesterday gently now, not as weight, but as warmth, moving carefully through their hands and voices, while somewhere ahead tomorrow waited quietly beyond the fading rooftops and railway signs. One friend pointed toward the distant river where fog drifted low above the bridges like smoke from forgotten trains, while another tucked cold hands deeper into coat pockets and smiled without needing to explain anything at all. The streets beneath them shimmered softly with reflections from traffic signals and convenience store windows still awake, turning the whole city into something cinematic and fragile beneath the endless drizzle. The younger one spoke about leaving someday, about journeys still waiting beyond bus terminals and unfamiliar coastlines hidden past the mountains. And though the older faces listened quietly beneath the rain-dark sky, their eyes carried the calm understanding that every first journey begins long before anyone actually leaves. If hope has a sound, perhaps it resembles shoes against wet pavement before sunrise, while jazz drifts slow through narrow cafes, or laughter returning softly between people who survived enough winters to stop fearing temporary storms. Not certainty, not perfection, just the steady feeling that life continues unfolding beautifully for those willing to keep walking forward together. Now the first pale morning light stretched slowly across the rain-soaked streets, while autumn leaves gathered near the curves below. And the city breathed softly beneath the fading clouds like an old song still lingering after the final note. Somewhere between the quiet footsteps, the silver reflections, and the warmth shared beneath worn coats in the dawn air, their small unfinished journey continued gently toward the brightening horizon, waiting beyond the waking city. stranger sat beside the train window while evening fields stretched endlessly beneath fading autumn light. Their reflection moving softly across the glass beside distant mountains, dissolving slowly into blue haze. The carriage hummed low with quiet conversations, paper cups of coffee, and tired shoes resting beneath empty seats, while the rhythm of the rails carried everyone gently toward places they had not fully imagined yet. Outside, small towns passed one by one beneath pale station lights and thin trails of chimney smoke rising into the dark. And somewhere beyond those quiet rooftops, young hearts were still searching for ways to begin again. The stranger watched the world drift backward through the moving window calmly, as though every passing landscape contained a version of the life they almost chose before boarding this train. Maybe youth was never meant to feel certain all the time. Maybe it was always this mixture of movement, silence, and unfinished questions. And maybe courage begins quietly inside the decision to continue forward, even without knowing the exact shape of tomorrow. The train kept moving steadily through the dark, while distant station lights glowed softly beside the rails ahead. And the stranger carried their quiet hopes carefully, like warmth hidden beneath the winter coat sleeve. Nothing dramatic changed that night beneath the soft jazz and dim cabin lights. Yet somewhere between the moving landscape and the endless rhythm of the tracks, their future slowly began breathing again. An older man across the aisle fell asleep with an unfinished newspaper folded loosely against his chest near the window, while a student in headphones stared silently at the ceiling as midnight gathered outside the carriage glass. The stranger remembered younger days spent speaking loudly about impossible dreams beneath cheap apartment lights, back when every road seemed open and every failure felt temporary enough to outrun. Now the world felt quieter somehow, but not smaller. Even uncertainty carried a strange kind of beauty beneath the soft reflections moving through the train at night, like rain sliding down distant station signs before disappearing quietly into darkness. The farther the train traveled, the lighter the stranger's thoughts seemed to become. Not because fear disappeared completely, but because movement itself began feeling enough for now. If hope has a sound, perhaps it resembles train wheels echoing softly through sleeping valleys before dawn arrives, or jazz drifting low through dim headphones while unfamiliar cities wait silently beyond the next station stop. Not certainty, not arrival, just the calm understanding that life continues, opening slowly for those willing to keep traveling through the dark. Now the night deepened outside the moving train, while scattered lights shimmered faintly across rivers and empty platforms below. And the stranger remained awake beside the cold glass, watching tomorrow gather quietly beyond the horizon line. Somewhere between the endless tracks, the fading reflections, and the soft rhythm still carrying the train forward through the dark, their unfinished youth continued gently toward a future not yet visible from the window. alone inside the quiet room before dawn, while pale blue shadows rest softly along the wooden floor, and the world beyond the window feels distant, like a story still sleeping beneath the fading stars. A small lamp glows beside a stack of books, casting warm circles of light that drift gently across unfinished notes and empty cups. Somewhere in the silence, thoughts of a friend return, not loudly, not suddenly, but like soft footsteps crossing a familiar hallway. The memory feels light in your hands, like holding a folded paper crane that never quite forgot how to fly. Maybe certain people stay close this way, hidden inside ordinary mornings in quiet rooms, and maybe affection grows gently, like dawn arriving without asking for attention. The room stays calm beneath the early sky, while small pieces of light gather softly around you, and the thought of that friend moves through the silence like a warm note carried by the air. Nothing has to become more than it is, yet every quiet moment seems brighter when the name drifts gently through your mind. The morning feels softer than before. The clock continues tracing circles through the fading night, while distant birds begin testing the edges of the day, and cool air slips through the slightly open window, carrying the scent of rain from somewhere far away. You remember simple things about that friend, a laugh arriving unexpectedly, a kind glance resting briefly before looking away. The memories are small enough to fit inside a pocket, yet warm enough to color the entire room with quiet brightness. Outside, the horizon slowly gathers silver light, and the darkness begins folding itself carefully into morning. You sit still for a while longer, letting the peaceful rhythm of the room settle around your thoughts. If tenderness has a shape, perhaps it resembles a window glowing softly before sunrise, or the calm feeling that lingers after remembering someone who once made an ordinary day feel lighter. Not certainty, not longing, just a gentle warmth resting quietly where the night meets the morning. Now the first sunlight touches the curtains, while the room awakens slowly beneath the pale gold of a new day. And the memory of that friend remains beside you like a quiet melody lingering after the final note. Somewhere between the fading stars, the growing light, and the soft stillness of the room before the city wakes, the feeling continues unfolding gently, carried forward by the morning air. And beyond the window, the day keeps opening little by little. Sit by the window after another long day, while the evening sky slowly fades into shades of blue and gray. And the room feels quieter now that the messages have stopped arriving the way they used to. The breakup happened weeks ago, but some memories still appear unexpectedly in ordinary moments. You find them in old playlists and familiar streets, and coffee cups left half finished, and train rides home after sunset. The sadness isn't as sharp anymore, just present enough to remind you that something meaningful was once there. You thought healing would arrive all at once, but it came slowly slowly through small mornings and quiet nights. Some days still feel heavy, yet the weight is easier to carry now. You keep moving forward through the changing seasons while the city lights continue glowing outside your window tonight. And even though the story ended, your own story keeps unfolding beyond it. The memories stay where they belong, not erased, not holding you back. The road ahead remains open beneath the calm evening sky. You walk through places you once visited together, and they no longer feel frozen in the past. The trees still sway in the wind, the buses still arrive on time, and people continue their conversations around you. Life didn't stop after goodbye, it simply learned a different rhythm than before. The struggle in youth you were a year ago might not recognize you now. And that's okay, because growth often happens quietly. The future no longer feels like a closed door, it feels more like a street you've never walked before. Maybe not every ending needs a reason that makes perfect sense. Maybe not every chapter needs to last forever to matter. You can carry gratitude without carrying regret, and you can remember someone without staying lost in the memory. The night outside remains calm, and tomorrow is already on its way. You keep moving forward through the quiet hours while new lights appear one by one across the skyline beyond your view. And the person you are becoming feels a little stronger with every ordinary day that passes. The breakup is part of your story, but it is no longer the whole story. The memories drift gently behind you, while somewhere ahead, beyond the streets you know, and the nights you've already crossed, something new is beginning to take shape. Paper airplane beside the window, while late afternoon sunlight drifts slowly across the room, and the creases hold small wishes that never quite fit into ordinary conversations. Outside, the sky stretches far beyond the rooftops, wide enough to welcome every unfinished dream you carry. You turn the airplane gently in your hands, watching its sharp edges catch the golden light. Some people measure distance with maps and numbers, but you measure it with courage and the willingness to begin. The wind outside keeps changing direction, and the future rarely follows a straight line. Still, there is something beautiful about trusting the open air ahead. The paper airplane rises through the sunlight, while the horizon waits quietly beyond the city and the clouds, and you send a piece of hope into a sky that always feels larger than fear. Every turn in the wind becomes part of the journey, every unexpected path becomes part of the story. The world feels wide enough for another dream to take flight. You watch it drift above the neighborhood trees, crossing over quiet streets and rooftops warmed by the fading day. For a moment it seems weightless, moving freely between the earth below and the endless sky above. The road ahead may not be clear yet, not every question has found its answer, but the airplane keeps moving forward anyway, carried by something simple and steady beyond certainty. The evening light grows softer around the city, and the distance no longer feels impossible to reach. Maybe strength is not knowing exactly where you'll land. Maybe it is choosing to leave your hands open and trust the journey. Maybe hope is a small paper airplane crossing a sky that never promised easy directions. And somewhere beyond sight, new winds are already beginning to gather. The paper airplane continues through the open sky, while the last light of day settles softly across the horizon below. And you keep watching with a quiet confidence that grows stronger with every passing moment. The clouds keep moving, the world keeps turning, and the possibilities ahead remain wider than the roads already traveled. While the airplane drifts farther into the evening air, the sky continues opening beyond the edge of what can be seen. The cold morning greets me before the city fully wakes, and I breathe in the pale air as if it carries room for another beginning. While the quiet streets remind me that not everything important needs an audience to matter, I tighten my coat and keep walking, feeling the weight of yesterday settle a little lower on my shoulders. The sky is still deciding what color it wants to become, and I realize I don't have to know exactly who I'll be by the end of this journey either. There is strength in continuing, even when certainty has not arrived yet. I have learned that courage rarely announces itself. It simply appears in the choice to take the next step. The morning stays cold, but my hands remember how to reach toward light. In this cold morning, I carry a quiet fire that no winter wind has managed to take away from me. And I move through unfamiliar days with hope tucked carefully beneath my ribs. I may not have every answer, I may not see the whole road ahead, but my heart still opens toward the horizon waiting beyond this hour. I pass windows glowing softly with early light, watching strangers begin ordinary routines that somehow feel sacred from a distance. A bicycle leans against a fence, steam rises from a nearby rooftop, and the world slowly gathers itself together. I remember the versions of myself that doubted everything, the one who hesitated at every doorway and mistook fear for truth. I thank them quietly for bringing me here, because even uncertainty taught me how to endure. The frost along the sidewalks will disappear by noon, and perhaps some of my worries will soften in their own time as well. Maybe strength is not becoming unbreakable. Maybe it is learning how to bend without losing direction. Maybe hope is waking up again and again, choosing to believe that another beautiful thing is still possible. The morning does not rush the sunrise, and I no longer rush my becoming. In this cold morning, I walk beside myself with more kindness than I knew how to offer before. And the quiet determination within me feels stronger than the doubts that once filled every silence. The road remains unfinished, the future remains unwritten, yet something steady continues guiding me forward through the changing light. As the city wakes beneath the widening sky, and the day slowly unfolds beyond what I can yet imagine, I keep moving, carrying both hope and strength into whatever waits ahead. I boarded the train to nowhere beneath a ceiling of fluorescent clouds, while the station clock pretended certainty was something anyone could keep. And the worn ticket in my pocket felt less like an answer and more like permission to disappear for a while. Doors closed behind me without hesitation, and the city released its grip one station at a time. Outside the window, apartment lights dissolved into industrial yards and sleeping rivers, their reflections trembling briefly before surrendering to the dark. I watched my face drift across the glass, a familiar stranger driving beside me through midnight landscapes. I never knew exactly what I was leaving, and I could not name what waited ahead. Still, the rails carried their silver promise, stretching beyond the reach of certainty. On this train to nowhere, I gather lonely courage beneath the rhythm of wheels, tracing unseen distances through the night. And adventure unfolds not as triumph, but as the willingness to keep moving through unanswered hours. The stations blur behind me, the horizon keeps its secrets, and my restless heart learns how to breathe inside the unknown. I passed through carriages filled with quiet constellations of ordinary lives, a student asleep against a backpack, an old man turning newspaper pages without urgency. Someone watches the darkness without blinking as though waiting for a familiar landscape to emerge. The vending machine hums softly near the doorway, casting pale light across forgotten receipts and untied shoelaces. I think of all the versions of myself left behind at previous stops, each one believing they understood the shape of tomorrow. The tracks continue through forest and abandoned platforms, unconcerned with whether anyone calls this progress. Perhaps loneliness is not an empty seat beside me. Perhaps it is the quiet space where my own voice finally becomes audible. The night asks no performance, offering only distance and the patience to observe it. I loosen my hold on destination, allowing wonder to arrive without explanation. On this train to nowhere, I travel beneath the sky, untouched by deadlines, while moonlit fields drift beyond the sleeping windows, and discover that freedom can exist within uncertainty, without demanding a map. The unfinished dreams, the missed departures, the fragile hope hidden beneath exhaustion continue riding beside me. As dawn gathers somewhere beyond the final tunnel, and unfamiliar stations prepare to announce their names, I remain awake with my reflection in the glass, watching the endless tracks disappear into a morning that has not introduced itself yet. You sit across from me in the moonlit diner, while silver light pulls softly along the edges of empty booths and polished countertops. And outside the wide front windows, the city drifts through midnight, with headlights flowing like quiet rivers. You cradle the warmth of your cup between both hands, watching steam rise and disappear into the gentle hum of the room. The old ceiling fan turns above us without urgency, stirring fragments of late night conversations and the scent of fresh coffee. You lift your eyes toward mine for a fleeting second, and the ordinary world grows tender at the edges. The moon hangs above the parking lot, casting pale reflections across rain-dark pavement. You say my name in your unguarded voice, and even silence feels illuminated. In this moonlit diner, you become the quiet warmth that steadies my restless heart beneath the city's fading glow. And love reveals itself through gestures so small they almost escape notice. The cups cooling slowly, the soft light between us, the comfort of knowing this moment asks for nothing more than our presence. You tell me stories you've never considered important, about childhood afternoons, forgotten melodies and dreams that shifted shape over time. I gather each detail carefully, because devotion often lives in the spaces others overlook. Outside, a late night bus passes through the intersection, its windows carrying strangers toward destinations beyond our imagining. Inside, your laughter rises quietly above the clink of dishes, and the tired clock above the register seems to lose its hurry. The diner keeps its patient rhythm, holding us gently within its circle of light. Perhaps love is not written through grand declarations beneath impossible skies. Perhaps it arrives through staying after midnight, asking one more question, remembering how someone takes their coffee without needing to ask again. beyond the glass, yet neither of us reaches for farewell. In this moonlit diner you sit beside my unspoken thoughts, while the sleeping city glimmers beneath a sky brushed with silver and blue. And I discover that being understood can feel as miraculous as being chosen. The unfinished conversations, the passing glances, the quiet faith hidden inside ordinary evenings continue to glow between us. As the moon drifts higher above the empty streets and dawn lingers somewhere beyond the darkened skyline, we remain beneath the fading diner lights a little longer, letting tomorrow approach with its own unhurried footsteps, carrying whatever tenderness it has yet to reveal. I stand before the sleepless skyline, while midnight gathers quietly between the glass and steel of distant towers. And every illuminated window feels like a chapter from lives I will never fully understand. The city keeps its restless breathing, a low and steady rhythm beneath the pale wash of streetlights below. I lean against the rooftop railing, watching headlights drift through avenues like slow-moving constellations. There are nights when my thoughts arrive all at once, and nights like this, when they simply sit beside me without asking to be solved. The moon hangs above the skyline, softening the sharp edges of familiar buildings. I listen to the quiet between passing sirens and hear my own heartbeat answer back beneath this sleepless skyline. I gather the scattered pieces of who I have been beneath 1,000 distant lights, and let them rest together without asking them to become anything else tonight. The city keeps glowing, the night keeps unfolding, and I remain here long enough to feel the beauty inside uncertainty. I remember earlier versions of myself, reflected in train windows and apartment mirrors, each one carrying private fears beneath carefully practiced expressions. Some dreams changed their shape with time, while others stayed quietly faithful beneath the surface. A breeze moves through the rooftop garden, lifting forgotten receipts and the scent of rain from the cooling pavement below. I realize not every unanswered question requires urgency, and not every detour means I have been lost. The skyline shifts with every passing hour, yet somehow the city remains unmistakably itself. Perhaps becoming is not a straight ascent towards certainty. Perhaps it is learning to stand within the unfinished chapters. The buildings rise without apology for their scaffolding, their foundations hidden beneath ordinary streets. I offer myself the same patience, allowing room for what still needs time. Beneath this sleepless skyline, I watch the first hints of dawn passing headlights, the waking windows, the countless stories moving beside my own become part of this shared horizon. As night gradually loosens its hold and morning waits beyond the fading city lights, I remain beneath the changing sky, still listening for whatever quiet truth the next hour may bring. Midnight rain gathers against the city windows while I wander through familiar rooms, carrying thoughts I never learned how to name. And the streetlights below dissolve into trembling ribbons of gold across the wet pavement. I leave the television silent in the corner, letting the weather speak in its own patient voice. My reflection drifts across the darkened glass, appearing and fading between passing headlights. I meet my own tired eyes for a moment and recognize someone still learning how to stay. The rain keeps riding on the rooftops, line after line, without urgency. I breathe with the rhythm of the storm, allowing the night to loosen its careful grip. In this midnight rain, I gather the scattered fragments of my heart beneath the sky too vast to explain, and discover that emotion does not need resolution to become beautiful. The city keeps glowing, the raindrops keep falling, and I remain here long enough to hear my own quiet courage answer back. A train passes somewhere beyond the sleeping neighborhoods, its distant echo weaving through the hush of apartment walls. I think of unfinished conversations, of dreams folded away inside ordinary routines. The clock advances without ceremony, its steady movement untouched by hesitation or regret. I no longer ask every memory to justify its return, nor every uncertainty to reveal its ending. Outside, umbrellas drift through intersections below, small constellations moving beneath the rain. Perhaps healing is not a sudden revelation beneath dramatic skies. Perhaps it is the simple act of remaining present while the storm continues. The willingness to sit beside unanswered questions without mistaking them for defeat. The rain never apologizes for falling, and the dawn never asked permission to arrive. In this midnight rain, I carry tenderness and resilience through avenues illuminated by silver reflections and sleepless windows, and find that hope can exist quietly within the spaces where uncertainty once echoed the loudest. The fading echoes, the passing headlights, the fragile promises I continue making to myself remain As the storm drifts slowly toward the edge of morning, and the city's shimmering reflections begin to blur into daybreak, I stay beside the rain-touched window a little longer, listening for whatever gentle truth the next horizon chooses to reveal. I see you standing at the edge of another quiet morning, carrying invisible weight that no photograph could ever hold. I know there are days when your own reflection feels like someone you have not met with kindness for a long time. I have walked through hours that seem too silent to contain hope, yet they slowly open like windows after the rain. So I will stay beside you until the light feels familiar again. You do not have to become someone else to begin again. You only have to believe this moment is not the final page. I believe healing grows the way the morning arrives, slowly enough that the sky hardly notices its own change. I believe your heart remembers the way forward even when your thoughts become lost in the dark. Every gentle breath you choose is already carrying tomorrow a little closer. Walk with me and let hope become something quiet enough to stay. I have seen winter fields hold unseen seeds beneath frozen ground, waiting with a patience no season could erase. I have watched rivers find new paths without forgetting where they first began. You are not defined by the nights that ask too much of you. You are shaped by every morning you chose to rise before certainty arrived. If your hands feel empty today, let them rest before they reach again. If your voice grows quiet, let the wind carry the words you cannot yet say. Some healing is not a single moment, it is 1,000 small mornings, learning to trust the light. I believe healing grows with every calm step you take toward the life that is still waiting for you. I believe your quiet courage has already carried you farther than you can see from here. Come with me into this widening dawn, where the horizon asks for nothing except your presence, and somewhere beyond the first warm light, another gentle beginning is already unfolding. found your old letters tucked inside a quiet drawer, and I read them with a smile instead of the sadness I once expected. I remembered how carefully you chose your words, as if every sentence deserved a little more time before it reached me. I realized those pages were never only about who we were back then. They also reminded me of who we helped each other become. I closed the last letter gently, grateful that some memories can stay warm without asking to return. I don't read them to go back, I read them to remember with kindness. You left me words that still feel honest after all this time. You gave me moments that quietly became part of the person I am today. I hope life has given you reasons to smile the way your letters once gave them to me. I carry those pages forward, not as a goodbye, but as a gentle part of my story. I wonder if you still write things down when a day feels too important to trust to memory alone. I wonder if you still pause before sealing an envelope, hoping the right words have finally arrived. I don't need answers to those questions anymore, but I like knowing they can still exist. Some thoughts are beautiful simply because they remain unfinished. We couldn't keep every promise we once imagined. We couldn't stop time from changing the roads beneath our feet, but we were honest with our hearts, and that still means something to me. You left me words that continue to bring quiet warmth whenever they find me again. I have learned that letting go and being thankful can live in the same place. Wherever your life has taken you, I hope it has been gentle with your heart. And if another letter is ever written somewhere in the distance, the morning will know how to carry